Right. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Labor is really pleased with the final results and what they show that Labor achieved on election night, which in summary is a final party vote of just on 37%, 46 members of Parliament, and a strengthened mandate to continue with coalition negotiations. These results show that the majority of New Zealanders voted against the status quo, that the majority of New Zealanders voted for change. I would be proud to be a Prime Minister in a changed government, in a Labor-led government. We will continue our negotiations in earnest with potential support parties beginning this weekend. I also want to acknowledge that we've now brought into Parliament Angie Waring-Clark. She'll make an excellent addition to the Labor team. She's based in the Bay of Plenty. I first met Angie in her role as the head of Women's Refuge in Tauranga. She works with the most vulnerable in that community, does an amazing job, and will bring exceptional skills and talent to the Labor team. That Labor team has inched closer to our target of 50% women making up our caucus, something that we were proud to work towards and something that we have nearly achieved this election. Look, I'm pleased to take questions.
Do you think that this now puts you on a level pegging with National in terms of those negotiations?
Absolutely. This now means that we have a strengthened mandate to negotiate and form a durable, stable coalition government.
You said that you were going to start coalition negotiations this weekend. Is that with Winston Peters?
My expectation is that we'll start those negotiations in earnest this weekend. I'm not going to confirm whether or not those will be with New Zealand First, but I certainly know that we all have a tight timetable that we're working towards and that we are ready to be a part of those.
So will you be meeting him face to face tomorrow?
I haven't made set clear timelines with New Zealand First yet, but I expect that all parties will be moving as quickly as we are able to.
How much more comfortable does this make it for you? How much more comfortable? You talked about wanting the comfort of an extra couple of seats. Does it really make that much difference?
Yes, we have a strengthened mandate now with the majority of New Zealanders having voted for change. We have a strengthened mandate in these negotiations, and that's exactly what we'll do.
Have you talked to the Greens?
I haven't had a face-to-face with them yet, but I did send a quick text message to James Shaw congratulating him on his additional seat.
Can you just explain how it works now next week in terms of the Greens? Do you negotiate with New Zealand First exclusively? Are the Greens involved at all now?
My expectation is that as Labor leader, the Labor team will negotiate with the Greens and that the Labor team will negotiate with New Zealand First.
So all three parties will not come around a table?
My expectation is that we will negotiate with the Greens and that we will negotiate with New Zealand First.
Do you think it's more likely we would see a Labor New Zealand First led government as opposed to a Labor Greens led government?
We will negotiate with those parties separately. I'm not setting out here today what the outcome of those negotiations will be.
Are you in the process of setting up meetings with New Zealand First for this weekend?
My expectation is that we will have a conversation this weekend around our next meeting.
And what would be your message to Winston Peters now?
Look, actually at the moment my message would be to New Zealanders, and that is, and thank you for the support that they showed Labor this election and for giving us the ability to now have that strengthened mandate to negotiate with those parties who are in the position to form a stable coalition government. The rest of those conversations now need to happen in earnest, and we'll be talking directly with those party leaders.
National has still, as the largest party, has still got a bigger vote share than what you and the Greens.
Yes.
So doesn't that give them the stronger mandate?
The strongest mandate now sits with the parties who are all voting and all pushing for a vote for change. And the majority of New Zealanders voted against the status quo. We have a strong mandate now to continue those negotiations, and that's a mandate that I'll be focused on over the coming days.
Does National have any sort of extra moral mandate, or whatever you want to call it, convention?
I rejected that notion from the beginning. This is an MMP environment. The majority of New Zealanders voted for change.
James Shaw openly declining not to go with National. Does that put him in a more of a higher pedestal when it comes to negotiating?
Oh, look, we've always had the position, we've always known that the Greens have said that they wanted to focus on changing the government, and that's what their coalition negotiations were focused on.
Do we need to get this done in 5 days? Is it too tight? I mean, you ain't got 5 days to now do a deal. It seems too short, isn't it?
Oh, look, we're focused on making sure that we can find resolution as quickly as possible, but we will do that responsibly. We'll make sure that we take the time needed and try and strike the balance between moving quickly but moving responsibly.
So it could take longer than the 5 days?
Oh, that's not my current expectation, but what I will say is we will do this responsibly.
But would you be open, say, to suggesting to Mr Peters and perhaps National as well that, let's take longer?
At this stage, I see no need for that, but we will strike that balance between moving as quickly as we can, but as responsibly as we can.
Gaining these two extra seats, was it something that you had spoken about to Mr Peters when you had spoken?
Oh, I've looked personally at what I thought some of the specials might deliver, but I'm sure every individual party looked personally. It was all speculation amongst ourselves as a party about what we might generate.
You've acquired all the Māori seats, and well done. What do you think your Māori supporters will say if Winston was to become the Deputy Prime Minister?
I think they'd be supportive of us if they indeed voted for us. I think they'd support us having formed government.
How do you feel differently than on election night, in your election night speech, where you talked about perhaps wanting to get a few more? How does it feel now compared to that moment?
A bit closer to the number that I wanted.
But do you feel more emboldened? I mean, do you feel actually genuinely like that this is achievable?
Oh, certainly for Labour, it was about making sure that we were in the position to form a stable, durable coalition government. We are in that position.
Do you think New Zealanders understand that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Understood the situation we're in?
It's an MMP environment. We have been in very similar situations to this one before. This is not a new scenario. I think they absolutely understand that the majority of New Zealanders voted against the status quo, and it's now up to those major parties to negotiate and form that coalition government.
It would be new if a Prime Minister came from the party that had a lower party vote, if there was not from the largest party. That would be new.
That would be new, but we've had coalition negotiations where that's been a possibility before.
What's the number that you did want?
That would be exposing my own personal target. I, of course, set a very high bar for myself. I wanted to make sure that I did as much as I could as leader to place Labour in the best position possible. But look, we are in the position to form a stable, durable coalition government. I'm absolutely pleased with that.
Is Mr Peters off Treasury?
Off Treasury, we've always said that we've ruled out the finance role. We've said that from the beginning. Nothing's changed.
Knowing how New Zealand First has operated, do you think Mr Peters would probably prefer Greens doing an agreement with confidence and supply, and would James Shaw agree if that was to happen?
I'm not making any assumptions about what any parties want to get out of these negotiations. That's all for the negotiating table.
How badly do you want to be Prime Minister?
Oh, look, I ran a strong campaign on behalf of Labour to be in the position to be Prime Minister, to lead New Zealand, and to improve the lot of all New Zealanders. That is what these negotiations are now about. This is not about political expediency. This is about what we can achieve on behalf of New Zealand and New Zealanders.
Even if it means relying on New Zealand First and Winston Peters?
I would be proud to lead that kind of government.
So do you expect now to be Prime Minister Ardern after Thursday?
Yes, that's what we're in these negotiations for. That's what we campaigned for, to be in a position to make change.
Have you had any name tags written up with Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern?
I wouldn't. That would be getting ahead of myself. We are focused now on forming stable coalition government. That will be our focus for the next several days. We'll be moving as quickly as we can.
This afternoon.
But I'm not focused on the template.
Early this afternoon, Clark Gayford jumped to the embargo in social media in relation to the announcement. What have you said to him about that?
Oh, I have not seen anything in that regard.
You haven't seen that?
No, I have not seen that.
Look forward to your response.
Yes, indeed.
The crossbenchers, would you consider a situation where New Zealand First was to abstain? Would that give you stability? Would you be comfortable leading a government where there was some sort of a crossbenchers arrangement?
My focus is on making sure that we form stable, durable coalition government. That will be my focus in these negotiations. Beyond that, I'm certainly not going to reveal anything that happens behind closed doors.
Is it all on Winston's terms at the moment, or is Labour going to convey to him that you need to meet tomorrow and you need to meet for appropriate length?
Oh, look, it's all about finding what's going to work in the best interests of all parties. Look, and I think it would be wise to actually remind everyone that in these negotiations we're all working towards what we believe to be the best interests of New Zealanders. Doing the best we can to act responsibly in these negotiations are incredibly important. And so some of those logistical matters we take very seriously, but we're also making sure that they're mutually convenient.
What's your position of Bill English today?
The same as it has been throughout this campaign, that we in this campaign and in these negotiations are focused on getting the best outcome for New Zealanders. Our view is that's what a Labour-led government will offer.
What are his days as Prime Minister numbered?
I'm focused on what I can achieve on behalf of Labour. All right, everyone.
You keep mentioning stability and stable government. Why should the public have any faith in stability this time with New Zealand First?
Because we've demonstrated before in 2005 that that's exactly the kind of government we can deliver with them. We've also had other iterations. So
until 2008,
I think we've demonstrated.
And it wasn't stable.
Oh, when we weren't elected again as well. I mean, I think we've demonstrated that we can maintain in an MMP environment a coalition government that can serve the interests of New Zealanders, and that's what we're looking to do again.
Do you think you can do that better than National with New Zealand First?
I think we've got the experience to do it. I think we also have a shared policy platform with the parties that we are in negotiations with, and that of course is our expectation we've placed on ourselves.
Do you think you're in a better position policy-wise than National going into negotiations?
I do, but I think the bigger expectation is that I expect that our government will deliver better outcomes for New Zealanders.
Are we not going to have a Māori Deputy Prime Minister?
Well, certainly we're going into negotiations with that.
Either one is going to be two.
All right, everyone. Thanks very much.
Does Jacinda think she has got 100% unconditional support of her own caucus?
Myself and that person in that way. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Thanks, everyone.
Nice to meet you.